you ready? So in
Yeah.
other news, LA has stopped burning to the ground. And
Yeah.
I'm not referring to the wildfires. I'm talking about the riots that have been occurring over the last month.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and it's fizzled out a little bit. But let's get into that. Let's actually talk about the difference of a riot and a protest, because there is a major difference. And then a riot or a protest during the day versus what happens at night.
Yeah, I was watching this stuff unfold on TV, and I was like, oh my gosh. I hope this doesn't come back up here to the Sacramento area where we were, because this brings back traumatizing memories from 2020, 21 when those riots were kicking off and we were directly involved in those. And man, I'll share my personal experience with that. That was a scary time to be in. But yeah, these are crazy, man. Like, people want to know, they want to call them protests, riots, like whatever. Here's the thing. You have a protest, a legal protest, and then you have riots, and riots are complete chaos. It's a lawless, people committing crimes. It's out of control. So you came from an agency where you guys dealt with a lot of it. So what's your perspective on that part of it?
We did. So I'll first focus on protests. So
the legal ones.
The legal ones. So in Sacramento, in much across the country, and depending on the cities and the ordinances, you follow an actual process. You get a permit, especially at the state capitol. You get a permit on the east or west side of the capitol to protest, and there's a process to do that. But protests also come out onto the city. You can do that on the sidewalks. You can have freedom of speech, and a lot of times it pushes out into the street, because protests, the goal is to gain media attention and attention from onlookers and everyone around and supporters, and to get your voice out about an opinion or something that's going on that you're opposing or supporting. And the ones that I've worked, the protests are generally well choreographed, and they are not what you see on TV. What you would see on TV from a media camera is there is a lot of people, there is a ton of chaos, it is so loud, which it is loud, but from a camera view, it looks like a lot of people. But if you position the camera different, there's not a lot of people.
Yeah. So you're saying so the media always wants to trump it up to look like a much bigger deal.
Oh yeah.
Deal than it actually is for a normal law-abiding citizens who are out there actually using their First Amendment right and protesting.
Yeah. And a lot of the times they'd communicate with our agency, and I imagine this happens all across the country, and they say, we're going to protest between this hour, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to shut the street down. And there is a goal on both sides. Law enforcement wants to keep it peaceful, not get anyone injured, not really disrupt the community or traffic, but recognizing that the protest is saying we're going to do this. So you work with them, and you do allow them to have some flexibility, and they come out in the roads. You allow them to protest. And at times, we've actually had direct communication well before the protest is actually happening. And they say, these people are going to sit in the road. Our team, because when assigned to the SWAT team, we were the primary arresting officers, because we were tight-knit, worked together, and the communication was perfect, would communicate with them, and we'd go in, and it was discussed beforehand, like, we were going to give admonishments, clear the roadway, you have X amount of time, you're breaking the law, here's what the violations are, here's the consequences. Most people leave, the few remain in the roadway, maybe they're sitting or standing and are locking arms. We already know they're going to do that. We have their identification from each of those people already.
You have their what?
Their I stuttered through that.
Identification.
I know. Yeah, I see that. Maybe I need to trim my mustache, because
I did trim it.
I know, I could tell.
Yeah,
it looks good.
Yeah.
But
carry on.
Yeah, you would get their identification beforehand. So then you go up to them and you tell them, again, you have admonishments. You read it, so it's verbatim. A video camera records it. Media is filming it. The protesters are getting the publicity that they want, and then law enforcement is saying, this is what we're going to do. Stand up, you're under arrest. They go with the program because they're protesting and they're working with us.
And they're like designated people that are
totally designated,
that are basically told, like, you're going to get arrested.
Or they volunteer. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're volunteering to get arrested, and they already know once they get booked in jail, there's already people to get them out of jail.
Yeah, and a lot of times
It's choreographed.
Yeah, and a lot of the times when it is choreographed like that and it's respectful, they're not even booked in jail. They're just given a citation and released. They're just transported around the corners, given a citation, released, and on their way. Those are pretty peaceful. It's exhausting. It's loud. There's a lot of coordination that goes on with them. But for the most part, that is way different than a riot.
Yeah, and speaking of communication, we do want to give a shout out for today's sponsor, In-Ear, leading the way in radio communication. Make sure you check them out. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was involved in the 2020, 2021 riots that were going on all over the country, and I can't really speak too much on being involved in like the type of protests that you're talking about. What you did, you were more heavily involved in that. I just remember getting handed a bag with riot gear in it when all the riots started kicking off. You had no idea what was even in there, what fit you, what size to grab. You open this bag, and it literally was like a catcher's, being a catcher for a baseball team, like full chest guards, shin guards, elbow guards. Like, dude, there's so much stuff that you have to wear, like crazy helmet, face guards. You have like no mobility. You're told to put this stuff on, and then you just get thrusted out into absolute chaos. And the difference between these riots is, dude, at nighttime, well, even in these videos, I mean, even this was occurring even during daytime, people are burning cars and committing crimes. But
that's what happened. That's the difference. Is it went from a protest, and then it went to a riot, and then the riot becomes lawless.
That's the thing is you got these group of people who are using the protest as a way to become lawless and just absolutely go out there, obliterate the city, commit crimes because they know that they're going to get away with it and that they can. And so there's a difference between a group of people who want to do things the right way and then the other group of people who want to come in and completely disrupt everything, and they're not doing it for the right reasons. And being a cop in a situation like that where you're surrounded by hundreds, if not thousands of people, you're way outnumbered, that it's incredibly terrifying. Like, I remember standing there thinking to myself, I don't want to be here. This is insane. Like, all it's going to take is one person to incite something really crazy where if they really wanted to, they would overtake the group of, wherever you're positioned at in some type of protest or riot. Like, dude, it's scary. And really all you're equipped with is less lethal options, which is what everybody sees on TV. All the gas, the pepper balls, like all those things that you guys are seeing the cops shoot at people with, those are pepper ball, basically paintball guns that shoot out. They shoot out paintballs that are full of OC. So it's disruptive to your eyes just to try to get people to disperse. But dude, you got videos like I want to show this video of the highway patrol guy, the California highway patrol officers under the overpass.
Yeah.
And they're literally getting bricks hurled at them in the car to the tune of getting out of their vehicles. They have to hide under the bridge because that'll kill you.
So look at this. This is absolutely wild. Like, these patrol cars, they can't even go anywhere on the roadway. And this guy that's driving up quickly, he just wants to get out of the public view.
He wants to get under that bridge.
At this point, this is pure self-protection.
Yeah. I mean, dude, you got 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, fuck, you got more than 10 cop cars right there that are completely
destroyed. And
you're talking millions of dollars worth of equipment right there. Patrol cars that are now being taken out of service because those things are done. Like, there's such a bigger picture to
look at the rocks, the concrete chunks in the roadway.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, it's just unfathomable. Honestly.
Yeah, you're destroying stuff. And not only that, you have property inside that patrol car that like these officers that need, and they can't even get that stuff. They can't get anything to protect themselves.
They're shooting projectiles into the police cars.
I mean, they're held captive at this point under there. You're just hoping that nothing else. Look at this patrol car. You can't even see.
So to be in that position, I mean, it's scary. That's really scary. And I just remember vividly, like, honestly, being utterly terrified during being involved in these types of riot and protests. And there's not a whole lot you can do other than try to keep whatever peace that you can. And then you have groups of cops who are going to go around and, people that are setting fires or breaking into businesses. That's the other thing, looting. Like, these people at no cost or care will break into any business, loot a bunch of stuff from stores, set the stores on fire. Like I remember one time being down there and like Bevmos were all getting broken into, all the alcohol's being stolen. But then like a CVS got broken into and we went running in there.
They're breaking into CVS. Yeah, fish. This is nuts.
Because these guys are, these people are stealing all the medication from the pharmacy in a CVS. And then you got this poor business owner who owned a restaurant, probably, you know, his whole adult life. And these people burn it to the ground for no good reason. And then they're coming down, and I remember seeing business owners just crying because everything they ever owned, money they've put into their own business, has been torched to the ground for no reason.
Well, here, I'm going to blow your mind here for a second. So there are community members that are involved in protests and riots in their own community. But here's what's going to blow your mind. So I have a very, very close friend that works at a casino, and that casino, right before all of these protests in LA were going on, was getting inundated with people, and they had to call in all of their staff for the casino. They had to call in all their staff members. And my friend was asking, where are you guys from? Like, what's going on? Because she realized that all the IDs that she was checking were from Florida. And then they were openly telling her.
And this is in California?
This is in the Sacramento region.
Okay.
They were openly telling her, we're from Florida and we've been paid to come here. They have hotels and they were paid to participate in these protests. But they were taking the money that they were paid because they were paid very, very well, like thousands of dollars, plus flights, hotel, food. And the casino was getting inundated with these people. She said they're all respectful, all totally fine, like no problems. Of course, they have their own security, but it is absolutely verified that people are paid to protest.
That's absolutely crazy. You hear that stuff, you know, some people have their own theories on it. Some people have their own beliefs or whatever, but like the fact that people are actually there at the casino openly telling employees that they've been paid to come to California, clear across the country, to protest. Do they even know why they're there?
I've seen videos where they ask people, what are you doing? Why are you out here?
They have no idea.
And at surface level, they can answer it. But when you really start peeling back the onion, they can't really answer why they're actually there. They're just there. And some of it is people are getting paid. And the people that are taking these jobs, maybe they don't have employment. Maybe they have a criminal record. Maybe they can't find a job. Like, I wouldn't, if you offered to pay me X amount of money to fly to another state and protest and destroy and damage property, it's not going to be worth it to me because one, I could get injured, I could be arrested, but I also have a normal job and I can't just walk away from a job for that. So it makes me question what these people are doing where they can leave for weeks at a time.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. I think a lot of people ask like, well, how do you keep your emotions intact? Like, how do you, as cops, like, how do you allow just watching some of these people do what they do? And the simple answer is like, you don't have a choice because you're so outnumbered. You're going to watch someone do something that on any other day would 1000% go to jail.
Well, you talking about the emotional level. So I worked, hundreds of protests, even well before 2020. Some of it's city council, some of it's other just natural protests, some of it's based on police shootings. And I vividly remember when they started kicking off, we would go out there, our SWAT team, we were the primary team. We would still wear our normal patrol uniforms, so the presence looked the same. And we were right there, and we didn't have the gear at the time. We had it, but we never wore it because it was non-aggressive. It was a less approach. But I vividly remember that standing there, you would allow people, which is wild because in a normal situation, you'd never allow someone 3 feet from you. Yeah. But they would get close to you. And here's the interesting psychology that I figured out working so many of these protests is you get people that come up to you and you should be uniformed across. Every officer should look basically the same. Your mannerisms should be the same. But what I found is that if I looked away from the person that was in front of me, yelling, screaming, berating, cussing, every heinous thing you can imagine, saying over and over and over, like a broken record, trying to make you have an effect, I was good at it. And the guys on my team were very good because we did so much. It was not a problem to listen to this. It's almost comical. But if you looked away, people would zone in on you. But if you looked at them in their eyes, it was different. They would stop or they'd turn and they'd focus on someone else. So I would recommend if you're working protests and you get people right in front of you, and I'm not talking about wearing the turtle suits, there's a big difference. But when you get someone right in front of you, if you look at them right in the eyes, there's an emotional human connection and they stop and they change direction. Is wild. But you've got to be uniform. You can't do independent action.
Yeah, that's funny. Actually, that brings up that's a good point. And I actually had a cop come up to me, I don't know, like just the other day at the gym actually. And he's like, "Hey man, I watched your episode that we recently did." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And he goes, "Yeah, Mark gave a really good tip about putting your hands in the steering wheel." On
right on.
Whatever. He's like, "Dude, I told my buddy about that and we started doing that." I was like, right
Smart.
on, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're always full of these little random tips.
Here's another interesting thing on the protests, working the front lines. Doing so many, you become, it's just normal. And you're not, as an officer, responding to what they're doing. But our team and the officers, the bike units and stuff that were doing these every night for weeks, were getting exhausted. And then you'd have to bring in additional officers. They're pulling in detectives that have never worked these. This is their first day doing it. And you can watch them and they all have an emotional response. They're pissed. They're upset. They don't understand why. They want to talk back. And that really engages the protesters.
That's the worst thing to do.
Yeah, but it's hard because I did the same thing until you realize you can't do that. And then it becomes, okay, this is just what I'm doing.
Yeah, your best bet is to just not say anything. Let's hit on real quick some of the tools that are used to disperse crowds. So you have, because you see all these things on TV, people, the average person, they don't know what's being shot at them. And another thing too is the media doesn't tell you this, but before they use those projectiles and all the gas and start shooting people with that, like there are so many warnings leading up to that about, hey, if you don't disperse, this will be used against you. Like no one is going out there unless it's way out of control, but no one goes out there and just starts peppering people for the sake of it. Like you're told numerous times over and over and over, like you need to disperse the area. If you don't, they are going to use gas and tear gas. It's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to hurt. All those things are done. And so the media tends to not show that. But some of the things that are used are tear gas, OC, 40 millimeters, those rubber bullets. You got beanbag shotguns that are used. And then you'll see sometimes people will inadvertently get shot in places you wouldn't purposely shoot somebody, like maybe the face. And that's because, look, when you're involved in something like that and you're having to use that against somebody who's in a crowd who's literally hurling bricks at you. I mean, if someone reaches down to pick up another brick and they get popped in the face with a beanbag round, that's on them.
Well, yeah, and some of it, there's so many people moving around so much. You're taking a sighted shot every time, and you're going through for a specific area, and they move. You're not going to hit that area. They're going to move.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing too is that I wanted to hit on was bringing in the National Guard. When we were involved in those riots, the National Guard did come into town. And so now you're being paired up with National Guard, who I'm not sure what their level of training in riots are, but I don't think it's anything significant. And all they're showing up in is rifles. And you're like, all right, well, I'm not sure what good that's going to do you because we can't just be out here shooting everybody.
No.
So when National Guard comes to town, people freak out about it. But it is nice to have that extra layer of bodies. And more so to give you a break because you're out there for so long and you're just getting beat up for hours. It's nice to be able to take a break, have the extra resources there, and really just be assistants. And a lot of times I think like they brought in the Marine Corps for this, which is wild, and the National Guard. I think the mere presence of that, just that alone, is enough to get people to think twice about wanting to go out there and engage in that type of criminal behavior.
It changes your mindset from going out there destroying property to suddenly this is a big deal. Like,
dude,
this is
police
a major
departments were burning down.
Yeah, did you see the one where They actually evacuated their own department. They had to flee their department.
That's crazy.
Yes.
That's absolutely crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wild.
Well, back when in the riots that I was referring to that we were involved in Seattle, they burned down one of the dude. We were in Portland shortly thereafter, and like the police department's windows were all boarded up. Like they had literally took over the police department, burned it, broke all the windows out.
It's just
think about that.
The resources of how do you manage that? What equipment do you have, and what training? Like the training is, you don't get a lot of training.
It's minimal. Yeah, very minimal. There's a lot of agencies that go on mutual aid like us. You know how many hours of riot training I had?
0.
Yeah. After the academy, 0. In the academy, I remember we had, I don't know, a few hours of it.
Maybe.
I want to say we had a few hours of riot control training in the academy back in we went in 2006. But after that, I've never once had an hour, not even a minute of riot control training. And then it's like,
no way.
Riots kick off, throw you a riot bag, throw the shit on, get out there and figure it out.
Well, wearing that stuff it's not comfortable. It's hot depending on the weather.
It's terrible.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. You got to be comfortable. I think being comfortable in those environments, because that's another thing that no one talks about is if you're in a patrol car and you're responding to calls for service, you can stop. If you're a detective, you can stop, use the restroom, get something to eat or drink. Like you can maintain. But out there, you don't get breaks.
Oh, no.
Like
No,
the restroom is not an option. I remember every protest that we worked, I would just stop drinking water an hour before, and I would just be dying of thirst. But you could never use the restroom.
Yeah.
There's not an option.
Speaking of which, real quick, I wanted to also talk about the communication piece of this and how important it is to be able to hear what is going on and hear your partners, so that if you had to react somewhere, you as a group all need to stick together and react. You cannot have onesie twosie cops run around in these things. Like you got to stay in a group. And that's why our sponsor In-Ear creates such a great product. Most of my patrol guys at the agency that I work have all switched to their radio earpieces because they do work so well. They sent us some stuff. I want to hit on it. I think this thing was actually really cool.
That is one of the cooler items.
I think it's very fitting. I mean, this thing attaches to the rail of your rifle. It enables you. It's a push to talk, a wireless push to talk. So you don't have to take your hands off your rifle to be able to key up on your radio. You have it all right here. It's wireless. Other ones that I've seen have wires attached to it. Sometimes those things get tangled up.
So you mean that's wireless?
It's wireless. No wires.
I could tell. I
like it.
When I was on the SWAT team, I want to have that. That's what I would want.
Even a patrol cop.
You could have that.
Could
Absolutely.
very much benefit from this.
Well, here's another one. Like this is the same concept. It's a wireless push to talk, but it has basically like a watch bracelet. It's Velcro. You could attach this to anything. Like just the versatility of the options that they have is huge. I mean,
you
this right here.
You could throw it on your ankle, man. You could look like you have an ankle monitor on even.
Oh, just a little
one? Blend in.
Oh, well, talking about blending in, look at this. This right here, these are my keys, right? You see me. I carry these every day. So most of you would think that this is just a normal set of keys.
With a key fob.
With the key, yeah, for my vehicle. This is actually a covert push to talk.
I actually thought that was a key fob.
Yes.
And you told me that it wasn't.
No, it's a covert push to talk. So if you work in undercover capacity or even in the protests, if you're in like normal undercover type clothing or normal clothing and you're out there infiltrating that and you have this, like no one knows that you're pushing and talking, and the wires and everything that In-Ear has, you would never know. If you're dressed appropriately and you're fitting in, you would never see the equipment. And this right here, you can just pick this up. You're holding it in your hand, like.
And that's
genius.
Actually that is very important, because you just talked about being undercover and infiltrating this stuff. Like that really happens. Like we do send cops into these protests or riot situations, and they do scout out. They try to get information about what these groups of people are trying to do. They'll be feeding that information back to the command post. You know, they may find out about a stack of bricks and things that have been dropped off at a particular street corner and can intercept that stuff before the rioters even get to it. So the undercover part of this whole thing is like super critical in getting that information, and something like that, like that's going to keep you super safe, because somebody's not going to point that out and call you out as a cop because you're talking on the radio. Like, I would have never guessed that's a key. Like, that looks like a key.
I know.
fob to me.
I was excited to actually share this because
I thought in-ear hooked us up with new key fobs for my car. I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, no, I was like, no, this is for mine. But I actually really like this concept because you could wear this, I wouldn't wear it on the outside of my wrist. I'd wear it on the inside.
You can put on handlebars of something.
Yeah, like
anywhere.
you're not going to know what this stuff is.
Yeah, so great pieces of equipment. Like I said, a lot of cops that I know, especially at my own agency, have switched over to the in-ear product, and they love it.
You can find all this if you just go to in-ear.com. They have all this available. It's an awesome product.
So, touching else, what else did you want to mention on these rights? I'm glad they seem to be mellowing out.
They have mellowed out. I think the psychological toll, and it seems in the last maybe 6 years, protests and riots happen, but departments and sheriff's offices are responding more like
Appropriate.
Well,
Because they're not going to allow this stuff to happen.
Yeah.
You can't. We're in California, and unfortunately, I think you saw this isolated more to Los Angeles and only a couple other cities where I think that type of behavior would be more allowed. But you didn't see it all across the country like we did a few years ago. Because,
Right.
I mean, dude, there were sheriffs in Florida. The one sheriff literally said, if you think you're going to do that, he's like, we're going to kill you.
Yeah, you're not going to do it. And I do like the proactive approach to preventing riots because you have business owners that put their effort into businesses and they're getting ruined. And how do you come back from that? The insurance, the city, it's going to take a long time to rebuild a lot of that. The amount of money that has costed.
If they even get recuperated for any of that.
Yeah. The protests, I'm fine with protests. Like, that's a right. And to do it peacefully where you're not disrupting stuff, I actually believe your protest, whatever you're pushing or you're supporting, gets more publicity when you do it that way.
I agree, and I'm not opposed to it. We all have a First Amendment, but you also, within the First Amendment, there are laws.
Yeah.
You can't be enticing people. You know, there are constraints that you still have to obey by. It's not your First Amendment right doesn't just get. It's not a free for all. Yeah, I think it's crazy. I just think that initially when this all kicked off, I thought, oh man, here we go again. Like I don't even want to get involved in this stuff again. I was bracing for the worst. And I thought I was going to start seeing it trickle all over the country like we did last time. And we didn't see that this time. And I really think cities this time were like, no way. We are not allowing this to happen again.
Yeah.
And they took preventative measures from that occurring. And I didn't see it escalate further out than it did last time. Unfortunately, LA took the wrath of it and New York. But again, if you're going to allow that type of behavior in those types of cities, and city leaders have to step up and prevent that stuff from occurring. So,
well, I know a lot of cops were injured this time because these
brutal.
were very, very violent, and they were attacking officers versus trying to just like push
because
through.
It's become the new thing to do.
Yeah. So our hearts go out to all the officers that were injured in this. I hope you're doing all right. There's a lot of stuff that goes involved psychologically when you're dealing with protests, and for
brutal.
family members of those officers, because they're sitting at home watching this on the news, knowing your loved ones are out there dealing with this.
Well, dude, if you're in one of those massive crowds, how easy would it be for someone to have a firearm, start popping rounds into those groups of cops? You would never know who it was.
Yeah.
I mean, thank God.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen more often, but man, well, you're a real easy target when you're involved in these things. And that's why you got to give cops hats off to dealing with it, because that is not fun. I mean, there's videos all over that I saw online of cops going into restaurants, and man, hats off to some of these restaurant workers who were like dumping milk in the officer's eyes.
Yeah.
Cause they're getting pepper sprayed and, they're getting a piece of the OC and all the gas and stuff. And it's cool to see citizens, stepping up and helping take care of the law enforcement community. But
hopefully this answers some questions about the difference of a riot and a protest, because there is a big difference. Riots are violent, aggressive. They injure officers. They do a lot of damage. They go on for long periods of time. They go into the night. They suck resources, cause a lot of damage. And generally protests are during the daytime, and they do it through permits, or they do it less violent and less disruptive because the media is out and they want to get attention.
And either way, the media is going to spin it up. Even illegal protests, they'll spin it up
Yeah.
into something bigger than it actually is. So,
Yeah.
anyways, not fun to be a part of at all. I'm sad to see that this happened again. Hopefully that tapers off and we don't continue to see more of this. I don't want this to be the new norm of people are upset, so let's just riot and burn cities down. I don't want that.
Yeah. Well, this was a good one. Hopefully people took something away from it. So.
Absolutely. Again, thank you to In-Ear for sponsoring today's video. We will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.
Stay safe and be smart.